What if I told you this? Money, when handled God's way, wasn't meant to steal your peace or your joy. It's meant to serve His purpose for your life, to help you walk in His calling. Ain't that something? Because after decades in business and mentoring leaders around the world, I've learned something most people never hear. Money isn't the enemy. It's not even the goal. It's a tool, a test, a mirror. And when you start seeing money through that lens, everything changes. Today, I want to walk you through 7 truths about money that completely transformed how I think, lead, and build. And if you take them seriously, they will do the same for you. Let's begin. Truth number 1. Now here's where a lot of folks get it wrong. They give money too much power. They let it tell them who they are. They let it steal their peace, drive their emotions, and control their decisions. Money doesn't have meaning until you give it one. It's just paper and numbers until you decide whose hands it's in and what it's serving. You don't need more money to be fulfilled, friend. You need to know God's purpose for what you already have. Without purpose, no amount will ever be enough. Which brings us to the second truth. Money is a test. And I mean that in the deepest sense. How you handle it, how you think about it, how you react to it, reveals things about your character that almost nothing else can. I've seen people transform completely when they come into money. I've also seen people become far more generous, wise, and courageous. Money doesn't change who you are, it exposes who you are. And for a lot of us, it invites growth. I believe we're constantly being tested, not in a punitive way, but in a revealing way. Are we governed by fear or by trust, by scarcity or by vision, by pressure or by principles? Third truth, you are a steward, not an owner. This one took years to really land for me. We like to say my money, my business, my success. But in the bigger picture, we're just managing resources temporarily entrusted to us. Our time, our talent, our finances. And when you start living like a steward, not a hoarder, you make better decisions. You stop panicking in the short term and start planning for the long term. When you start thinking like a steward, you ask different questions. You start saying, what kind of legacy am I leaving for my family, for the kingdom? Who can I bless with what the Lord's entrusted to me? See, ownership says, this is mine. But stewardship says, this is entrusted to me to manage well and to use for God's purposes. And friend, that one shift in thinking will change your whole life. Truth number 4, wisdom adds wealth, not hype, not hustle, not gambling. It's wisdom, God's wisdom, that makes the difference. Wisdom leads to better timing, better partnerships, better decisions under pressure, and all of that compounds into success. I've asked this question in boardrooms, churches, coaching calls. What's one decision you made without wisdom that cost you? Most people don't even need a second to answer. Here's the truth. When you slow down enough to seek God's wisdom, when you ask, when you listen, when you discern, you stop pouring your time, your energy, and your money into things that don't bear fruit. Smart moves might build wealth, but wise moves, they build peace. And that's worth more than any dollar you'll ever earn. Fifth truth. Let me say something that doesn't get said enough. How you build your success matters just as much as what you build. I've seen people with all the outward signs of wealth, private jets, major exits, global influence, who live with regret because they compromised too much along the way, burned relationships, broke promises, lost themselves. You see, real wealth isn't just about numbers. It's about who you become while you're growing those numbers. And I'll tell you this, honor shows up in the small, unrecorded moments. How you treat your team under pressure, whether you keep your word when it's hard, whether you stay generous when no one's watching but the Lord. In every financial transaction, you leave behind more than a paper trail. You leave behind an imprint of your character. And here's the powerful part. When you build with honor, doors open that money can't buy. Trust compounds, relationships deepen, and your impact starts to extend far beyond your bank account. Because people remember how you made them feel, and honor is what makes your success truly memorable. Sixth truth, this one runs deep. It's not just about motivation. It's about who you are and whose you are. Too many folks disqualify themselves before they even start. They'll say, "Rob, I wasn't born into wealth," or "I'm not wired like those entrepreneurs," or "Success like that, well, that's for somebody else." But hear me, wealth isn't some exclusive club you're locked out of. It's the fruit of working with the gifts and strengths God's placed inside you. And those gifts, well, they're meant to bless others. You've got ideas, experiences, creativity, wisdom. These aren't random. They're seeds the Lord has given you. And if you'll learn to cultivate them, with His help, they'll grow. That doesn't mean it's automatic. It doesn't mean there won't be setbacks. But it does mean you're not powerless. You're not waiting on luck. You've been given the seed. You just have to cultivate it. For me, this shift changed everything. I stopped waiting for the perfect deal. I started asking, "Lord, what can I do right now with what you've already given me?" And you'd be amazed what happens when you start walking that way. Creating wealth isn't about pride. It's about alignment with God's purpose for your life. When you stop striving and start flowing with Him, that's when things really begin to move. Friend, you were designed to produce fruit that lasts. And when you understand that, money stops being a mystery and starts becoming one reflection of the fruit God is bringing through your life. Final truth, number 7. There are wealth codes embedded in the way the world works. I don't mean some secret formula or get-rich-quick hack. I'm talking about principles, patterns God's put in place. You'll see them again and again through history, in business, and in everyday life. Patterns like generosity leads to blessing and multiplication. Focus leads to traction. Discipline creates freedom. And alignment with God's ways, well, that brings kingdom acceleration. These aren't just theories, they're patterns. I've seen them work over and over in my own life and in the lives of so many I've worked with around the world. And here's the beauty of it. The more you align your life with God's principles, the more money simply becomes a byproduct of your growth. It's not your source of identity. It's just a tool for blessing others. Let's recap these truths, and I want you to take them to heart. Money is a tool. Money is a test. You're a steward, not an owner. Wisdom builds wealth. Honor preserves it. You're empowered by Him to create value and bless others. And this world runs on principles God Himself has established. And when you align with them, blessing follows. If even one of these truths spoke to you today, friend, I'd love to have you join us. Subscribe, stay connected. We've got more to walk through together.